Put on your yarmulke. It's time to celebrate Hanukkah. So drink your gin and tonica. Hey, everybody. I'm assuming I'm live. The computer says I'm live. And we all know computers never lie. Welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. A happy first day of Hanukkah to folks out there. And unfortunately also a sad first day of Hanukkah because of a brutal and cowardly attack in Australia. My prayers and my condolences go out to those folks who were affected in that. And it looks like the attack at Brown University might have had the same inspiration behind it. It's not confirmed, but there's some folks out there that are playing some real stupid games, and they're going to win some real stupid prizes. But welcome everybody. I hope outside of things like that, everybody's having a good holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, etc. Whatever you might happen to do at this time of year, or if you're doing nothing, then just have a good time doing nothing too. What do we got going on today? I'm going to be bagging and I'm going to be boarding some comics, mostly old. The few that are new are mostly going to be facsimiles, because that's mostly the new stuff that I buy is facsimiles. Wow, that seemed tighter than usual. Hoping these won't give me any trouble. No, it seems okay. For example, Fantastic Four number 12 facsimile. So they said, oh, you know what I didn't do though? Was grab tape. I'll have to tape them later. That's the second time I've done that. Doggone it. I grab all these different things that I need for one of these streams, and I always am going to forget at least one of them. So there you go. So at any rate, yeah, they said they were going to do the first 12 issues of Fantastic Four in facsimile format, and they have done exactly that. And I'll be honest with you, if they would like to just keep on going forever and reprint the entire original run, I'd probably collect it. And I would do that with a few other things as well. They also released this is the other one I picked up this week. And I know you're going, wow, it looks kind of blurry. Well, it looks blurry because it is 3D. It is Fantastic Four number 51 in 3D. Yeah, they got the glasses along with it. Had to grab that. Also pretty happy. Oh, is that? Oh, and it is just, oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. It's a sealable bag. Okay. So that way I won't have to lose the 3D glasses. But yeah, I have, maybe some other folks my age will remember this. Back in the 80s, so it probably would have been mid to late 80s, they started doing a few 3D comic reprints from, I guess, the 50s. And one in particular, I think, sold pretty well. And it was Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. And I don't know that it sold really, really, really well because everybody was interested in a 3D Sheena comic, but it had a cover by Dave Stevens. And I think that helped. I still got that book, but I don't have the 3D glasses. So now I do. Hey, everybody, from Ramey Butler. Hey to you. Hope everything is going well for you today. So we're going to be doing some bagging and some boarding while we chat. And I finally got some bags and boards again. I've been needing to get some for a while. And then I thought we're going to look at some of the normal kind of things we look at today. But I thought I'd also kind of give a top 5 first watch movies for me in 2025. What that means is, well, one of these movies is from 2025. The others go back a ways, including all the way back to 1929, but they were all first watches for me. So, and these are things that I've talked about in my streams over the course of the year, but I thought, end of the year, talk about my favorite movies that I've, watched for the first time this year. I think next week and the week after, I'll do something like that with toy releases and comic releases, and those will be from this year. Those won't be older ones. But I'll kind of do a sort of a wrap up of a bunch of the nonsense that I've brought into my home this year and which ones I think are maybe my favorite. It won't be like real hardcore or anything. I want an Inky Edition 2600 joystick from Atari Network. All right, cool. Yeah, I just got the Pac-Man one in yellow, and I was tempted by the fruit of another. No, I was tempted by maybe getting the pink joystick because I figured my daughter would like that. But I'm like, and I never ended up doing it. I don't know. I suppose there'll be something you could buy sometime in the future. But so let's start with one of those movies that was a first watch for me this year that I rather enjoyed, to the point that I actually I'm going to grab it on DVD. And that was Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin. Now it was presented in 3D. I didn't see it in 3D. But I can remember this tape case from when I worked in the video store. We had it in the children's section. And to be honest with you, it's not entirely a children's movie. It doesn't go as far as some of the Ralph Bakshi stuff or anything like that. But there's a few things that, if you put this on in front of an 8-year-old, of course, back in the day, we watched a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily appropriate for us. And, depending on your opinion, it either screwed us up royally or it didn't screw us up at all. But Star Chaser, it has a few scenes in it that you're kind of like, wow, I did not expect this. And I think it's one of the reasons that I liked it. This was one of those scenes where Orin has gotten to the surface of his planet and he's attacked by these sort of cyborg, almost kind of mutant cyborgs who want to use him for spare parts. So you're kind of like, whoa, that's a little bit scary. Damn. You also had a pretty, fairly sexy She-Bot in it. They definitely were going for a particular look. There's a little bit of Metropolis in there, but you know what? Really well played. And I think the voice actors did a great job in this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. It has obviously been compared. Whoops, I went one too far. I thought I had another image for that, but I guess not. It was obviously compared a lot to Star Wars in its time. I just realized I have not brought up all my notes for the show. Come on, little PDF, open up for me. Oh, well, that could be bad. What is it doing? It's not underneath this, is it? No. Oh, boy. There we go. It's like, am I going to be working without a net here? It's like, let's see if I can remember what all this stuff is that I'm supposed to talk about. So it's compared to Star Wars, and it definitely has some similarities to Star Wars. I don't look at that as a negative, being as I was a Star Wars freak at a young age. A lot of us like Battlestar Galactica because it was kind of like Star Wars. But critics went after it for that. Critics who probably, if I'm completely honest, wouldn't have liked it anyways, because it was sci-fi and it was animation. And back in the day, a lot of critics didn't like that kind of stuff. We forget about that now. I mean, hell, I don't think Siskel and Ebert, one of them, Ebert, didn't like Star Wars at all. I know a lot of people really revere Ebert nowadays, and I'm like, I don't know why. I think he was kind of a jerk. But this is kind of a cool Tarzan where he and Jane had been kidnapped and brought to New York, and he was put on display with a bunch of, African animals, and they managed to get away. And on the trip back to Africa, the boat is sabotaged and sinks, and he and his son, Jane, and those animals are loaded into boats and manage to make it, back home to Africa. But it was pretty good. I've enjoyed these Tarzans. I want to say, well, Roy Thomas. Okay, this was a Mantlo one. Roy Thomas wrote some of them as well from Marvel, but they were pretty good. They had the right look to them. Sal Buscema was doing the art. Anyway, the pilot is a Han Solo ripoff, but yeah, and he kind of is, but he's a little bit distinct though as well. I mean, that's clearly what they were going for, but I kind of like the character. He's actually a little more roguish than Han Solo. But yeah, I was surprised, man. When I just threw on, it was on YouTube, and I'm just kind of like floating around one day. I'm like, what the heck? I'll throw Star Chaser on. It might suck. Who knows? And I was like, watching it going, I think I'm really digging this movie. Actually, it's got more to it than I think a lot of people gave it credit for at the time. It also was one of the first movies to sort of do computer animation. And what they did for the spaceship scenes, the flying and stuff, is they created essentially vector like wire models of the ships. And, so they could do all that stuff. And then they traced over for the actual animation. There we have Conan. Jeez, there we have Tarzan taken down. Oh yeah. This was while they were captured and on display. They had him fight an albino gorilla. Yeah, the sword was kind of cool. It's a pretty cool movie. If you've never watched it, I would definitely suggest you check it out. I think it's worth it. I think if you're into sci-fi, you'll enjoy it. Again, it's not like, it's not like the most amazing thing ever made, but there's some really, really great imagery in it. It's really nicely shot. The characters are pretty cool. I think you'll like the characters. The bad guy's pretty rad. So yeah, I give a lot of credit to Star Chaser. And speaking of movies, so there's a lot of re-releases that are being planned, restorations and re-releases into theaters in 2026, and we got one for 2027 even, given pretty long notice on that one. So Studio Ghibli is planning several 4K restorations and releases in theaters next year. I don't know that they've announced exactly which films they're doing, but I would not be surprised at all if Totoro is one of them. If he is, my daughter, I could definitely see her going and seeing that. But apparently Ghibli is overseeing the restorations, so they should be pretty legit and pretty good. A lot of great stuff in those movies. Fun flicks, very worthwhile. Good to get. There's a lot of kind of, crap aimed at children these days. And it's mean to call it that exactly. I think a lot of them are probably made by people who are trying to produce something really good for kids, in their minds. I might look at some of it and go, not so sure about that. But, I don't think they're done. I don't think it's completely just soulless garbage necessarily. But from an artistic standpoint, not very impressive, in my opinion. The Ghibli stuff is impressive. It's beautiful stuff. Beautiful work that's done on that. And definitely happy that if kids can see something that's well animated, well designed, and just he puts a lot into the just into the backgrounds and making things beautiful. And we definitely need more beauty in there. Yeah, Raimi. I'm not super into every one of those movies. I remember us watching Kiki's Delivery Service when my daughter was little, and I liked that one, and I still do. Now, of course, we watched the American, version, the dubbed one with Phil Hartman and was Kirsten Dunst, which they modified because it's a darker ending, and he did like dark endings. Which I'm not necessarily all that into especially when it comes to kids. I think we need to infuse them with some hope and then gradually let them sort of see that, yeah, there's some bad stuff in the world too, but know that things can get better. And I think if you hit them with a lot of negative type of stuff at a young age, you know, I think that does not have a good impact on them as they grow up. But I do like artistically, I do like what they do. I would not personally put it at the level of the Disney films of the 40s and 50s. It's good, but it's not as impressive, I think, as some of that material was. And I'd love kids to be able to see some more of that on a big screen, but I don't know if Disney's going to budge on it. Again, Disney used to release their films into the theaters, and I want to say something like a 7-year rotation. So if they put, Snow White into the theaters in 70, they put them in there again in 77. They put it in again in 84, in 91. It was that kind of a deal, because that way, first of all, you could rotate through. So every year there could be a Disney movie re-released into the theaters. And they always did good. And I remember that's when I was a kid, that's how I saw Aristocats and 101 Dalmatians. I know I saw those as a kid, and they weren't, they were from before my time. And then I remember when, my wife and I were, dating, and before we were dating, we were just friends. I remember us seeing a few of those, of the more classic princess movies in the theaters. And so that kept them fresh for a younger generation. Because a lot of the Disney films really should be seen on a big screen. Like, I know I saw Pinocchio that way. I know I saw Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. I still think Sleeping Beauty is the peak. I think it's one of the most gorgeous movies ever made. The colors, the design behind it. It's actually a movie where the prince has a personality. They don't, the prince in Snow White and Cinderella is kind of like there. He's sort of like kin to Barbie. I mean, a little personality, not a lot. You get a lot more with the prince in Sleeping Beauty, and he gets to slay, the dragon Maleficent when she does that. Some great voice work, but so, 7 years was Magic Journey. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That is from Lady Gwendolyn. But they don't really do that anymore. And, my theory is that they don't do that anymore, probably partly because they now find them problematic, but also probably because they look so much better than the stuff they're producing nowadays. And they don't want to compete against themselves. They don't want people looking at some of the new stuff and going, oh, wow, the old stuff's a lot better. Holy crap. Because they should be re-releasing the heck out of like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast nowadays, a lot of those. I mean, some of them they probably wouldn't re-release. I don't know if they'd want to re-release Hunchback because it didn't do super well, but Lion King would probably but now it's like, we're going to do our modernized version of these things. And, some of them do pretty well in the theaters. I give them that. They do better in the theaters than I think they probably should have, but, I don't think they're as good. And those movies, they had a pretty good look to them as well. Lilo and Stitch is a good example. My wife found the ticket stub when we took our daughter to Lilo and Stitch. Was it 2002? I think it was in 2002. And then we were trying to figure out if that was the first movie she'd ever seen in a theater. Well, and I should take it already back. I don't think I went. I think it was just my wife and her mom and my daughter, and I'm not sure who else might have been involved. I think it might have been a day I was at work. But we kind of figured out, though, that I think the year before, Monsters, Inc. might have been the first thing she ever saw in a theater. But Lilo and Stitch was like, we watched it recently because my daughter was like, honestly kind of horrified at the remake they just did because of stuff they left out and changes they made. You know, it's sad that somebody her age is already going, wow, Disney's kind of ruining my childhood. It's like, yeah, I know they waited a good 20, 30 years before they started ruining ours, but they're getting right in on it, for the kids who grew up on Disney. But, so we rewatched Lilo and Stitch, and I'm like, it's a legit movie. It's really well done. You know, it's got some good comedy in it. You get some music, you know, including Elvis and people doing Elvis covers. The animation's really nice, and there's some really touching stuff in it. You know, it's a really good job. So good on them. Released the prequel, and it made more money than the new movies. Well, that would be my question though. Did it make more than the new? Did it make? Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, yeah. When you adjust for inflation, like, dude, I think Return of the Jedi. I want to say Return of the Jedi because I think that's the one I looked at recently. It did either $2.5 or $3 billion adjusted for inflation. And I got to think Empire and Star Wars were right around there. It might have actually even made more money than them because it was the final part, you know, generated a lot of excitement, even though I know a lot of people, obviously, and myself included, like Empire the best. But, Emperor's New Groove. Yeah, it's funny. And I remember when it came out, I was like, I don't know if I want to. Yeah. And so we saw it later. I think we actually, because like also when it came out, at my age, I was like, okay. I just wasn't going to a lot of stuff like that. But I remember watching The Emperor's New School with my daughter on Disney Channel. That was the cartoon, you know, TV cartoon version of it. And it was pretty funny. And you had Patrick Warburton and Eartha Kitt, you know, doing, you know, reprising their roles in it. And I think that's when we finally like, well, let's watch the original movie. I'm like, oh, that was pretty good, actually. That was pretty good, actually. So Tarzan, in these books, they did a whole bit with him going to Pellucidar, the Earth's core, and it involved the mad Arab, what is his name? Alhazred, the writer of the Necronomicon, I think. And do I have it in here? No, I don't have it handy. At any rate, it was pretty cool. They did some interesting stuff in that one. Yeah, and Treasure Planet and Atlantis, those are ones that I saw later on, like cable, I guess. Or actually, I guess it would have been satellite TV, whatever, same kind of thing. And I was pretty impressed by both of them. You know, again, they weren't to me like, you know, they didn't stand up there with the really classic Disney, you know, movies of the past per se, but I thought they were both pretty good. Aimed at a little bit more of a male audience, which God knows Disney is just like, we want the male audience, and yet somehow they really don't like the male audience, you know, and they just undercut everything they do that would appeal to boys, including the MCU and Star Wars at this point. Like, why do you keep doing this? They did it with Rocketeer. They did it with John Carter. You know, I mean, they really did it on John Carter. You would have to assume that the marketing that went into John Carter and the changes they made were done specifically to tank it. You know, and my guess is, based upon just the way corporate politics works, I think it's primarily been sort of a girl's brand, or also, you know, just a young kid brand. Because obviously little boys like Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Donald and all that kind of stuff too. You know, it's when you get more into a little slightly older ages is when it's more princess movies, a little more girl oriented. I think the folks, executives who are in charge of that stuff, right, they're looking at moving up the ladder. So if you're in, you know, the sort of movie division or TV division, You want to move up to the higher level where now you have the movies and the TV and the theme parks and the merchandise underneath you. And so what you don't want is, Kevin Feige comes in with the MCU and he's kicking major, major, major butt. Well, now there's a chance that he's going to move over you. And they don't necessarily care girl versus boy. It's not necessarily like a political thing. It's like, whoa, this new segment over here with the MCU is now challenging my future in the company. Star Wars is challenging my future in the company. What can I do to sabotage those segments of the company so the executives in charge of it are not going to compete with me as effectively as I try to move up the ladder? I think that might be part of it, because otherwise it's like there is absolutely no point in putting the amount of the billions of dollars they put into some of these properties and then handling them so badly. Yes, there are activists who want to push it in a particular way, and they have done a lot of damage, but historically in Hollywood, I don't care how good your movies have been. If your latest movie has flopped, you're a flop. You are a flop. And now you've got to work your butt off to get back in the good graces of the investors. As they say, you're only as good as your last movie. So at this point, you feel like there's got to be some amount of sabotage involved to not have already said, okay, pull back. Let's not do this anymore. Let's go back to basics. What worked with Iron Man? What worked with like the first Avengers movie? Let's get back there quick. Okay, what worked with this? What worked with that in Star Wars? They're still having issues with that, but it's instead it's been like, damn the torpedoes and full steam ahead. Boom. And they're losing a lot of money. So they're losing a lot of money. I saw somebody posting at a Ross. There was and this isn't Disney, of course, but it's the same problem elsewhere. It was I think they were like 12-inch sort of more kids action figures, not like the collectible stuff of the Michael Keaton Batman. I'm assuming from that Flash movie, and the David Cornsweet Superman. Now the Batman was down to like $5, and the Superman was down to $250. And like you're going, yeah, this stuff, it's not really moving. It's not really making an impact. It's not really making money. And traditionally, Hollywood's a big business, and Hollywood is a cutthroat business. It is a cutthroat business. And they're just like, no, it's okay. Let's keep doing it. So there's like, I think it's not just the activists can be kicked on out. If you're in a project that fails, they could fire your butt pretty easily if they want to. You've got a recognizable, you lost money on XYZ, get out. So the opportunity's there, and they're not. So I'm wondering if there isn't an amount of sort of inside corporate sabotage of like, no, you should definitely keep doing what you're doing, and meanwhile, my division is going to keep kicking butt. And I don't have to worry about you getting into a higher executive position. I just wonder if there's that kind of thing. Raimi says a couple things. Let's see. John Carter deserves way more support. The books are amazing. They are. And they are, if you read the books, it's like an old movie serial, right? Every chapter has the cliffhanger. And then the first book ends on a cliffhanger. I mean, and a hell of a cliffhanger. You're kind of like going, wait, what? Are you kidding me? So they'd be perfect for movies. Perfect for movies. You don't even have to really mess around with them too much, to be completely honest. They probably messed around with that movie more than they really needed to. But the movie, I remember going and watching the movie and thinking like, wow, this could be like Star Wars for a new generation. It was just, I know if I was a kid watching it, I would have been just like, whoa, check that out. The giant green Martians, and they have that giant battle and the ships and all the stuff and all the action. And I'm like going, man, this is great. This is really good. Now, is it as good as Star Wars? Whatever. Who cares? But like, if you're 7 and you're watching John Carter, holy mackerel. But not many people watched it because instead of it being called A Princess of Mars or John Carter of Mars, it's just called John Carter. It sounds like one of those stupid adult dramas about some lawyer who, his life falls apart and he's got a whatever. It just, it's terrible. So right from the get-go, and they made a movie poster that didn't show you all the cool stuff that you should have been seeing. They did everything they could to sabotage that movie. Well, it went a little over budget. Oh, it went a little over budget. Okay, well then why didn't you sabotage every single project you've had in the last 5 years? Because they've all had bloated, ridiculous budgets and lost a hell of a lot of money as well. No, the reason that they did it, in my opinion, is they knew they were buying Star Wars. And the geniuses of Disney said, well, we don't want to have 2 successful sci-fi franchises at the same time. That would be terrible. Dude, all you had to do was just promote John Carter in a normal way. If it's successful, then it gets maybe a sequel or 2. And you could still be doing your Star Wars, prequels that you wanted to do, or sequels that you wanted to do. Like you could have them release at different times in the year. They were not going to hurt each other. My God, if you look at releases back in the 80s that were sitting on top of each other and were still successful because there was a movie going public, like, I don't know. There's an old saying of like, the best way to understand the activities of any organization is to assume it's being run by a cabal of its enemies. And that is Disney. That is Disney. Raimi also says he's writing a Star Wars novel for a year now based on the Sith lore. I know there's so much lore now. I am like, for me, Star Wars, just from when I grew up, Star Wars is Star Wars Empire, Return of the Jedi. And I didn't get into any of the books. My wife got into the books. I didn't get any of the books. I really didn't like the prequels. What I basically realized was I am not like a Star Wars fan where it's like the whole kit and caboodle. I was a kid who grew up on the first 3 movies that were made and the action figures and all that stuff. And that's really where my heart is in terms of Star Wars. But man, there is tons of Star Wars lore, most of which, of course, is ignored by the people now who own all this stuff. They'll just grab little bits and pieces of stuff, and kind of work with it and ignore the rest. Speaking of something with a lot of lore, Lord of the Rings also, all 3 extended versions of the Lord of the Rings trilogy will be re-released in theaters in January, so not too far from now, for the trilogy's 25th anniversary, which I think I heard somebody say that's actually a little ahead of their 25th anniversary, but still, cool that they're going to, put those, I assume, probably be a little bit of restoration work on them. It's the extended versions, which I'll be honest with you, I didn't really need the extended versions a whole lot. But I'm not as into the Lord of the Rings trilogy as some people are. Generally liked them, but I like the Fellowship of the Ring the most. I like their Two Towers adaptation a little bit less, and I like the Return of the King a little bit less than that. But what was that one? Tantor has gone mad, ape man. When the tree falls, he will slay us. Yeah, and this was like a queen of, is it Ophir, I believe, that has the jewels and stuff. Anywho, but I would definitely be willing to go watch Fellowship of the Ring, the first one, even in an extended version. I'd like to see that one again. I remember having a tremendous amount of fun with that one. In fact, I remember distinctly, I don't know what we were doing, if it was like somebody's birthday or Christmas or whatever, but I remember folks were over at the house and my brother-in-law, Jerry, was there, and whatever we were watching, they put on that initial look at the fight with the troll. That was like the teaser thing that they put out there. And I can remember he and I watching that and being just like, oh, hell yeah. Just when the thing busts through and they're shooting it with the arrows and Gimli does that move and all that stuff. And we were just like, we were so hyped for that. So hyped for that movie. And the first one did not disappoint me at all. I had a great time at that one. There were a few changes they made in the others that I was like, you know, could have done without that. But they are, that doesn't mean I don't like the films. I just, you know, would rate those maybe a little lower than other people do. But what a great trilogy, man. And I'm glad that's coming back into theaters. Ooh, I don't know if I could get this. Oh. I'm almost ripping this one. Can I get it? Ugh. This is a thick comic book. Come on, sweetheart. You can get in there. Bump, bump, bump. There we go. This is the DC Tarzan. I managed to pick up one or two of those. Same time I picked up those Marvel ones. Yeah, this dude really... Nah, I'm going to need to rebag him. He needs a bigger bag. Because this is one of the big 52 pagers that DC would do. And I like their version too. This one... Yeah, this one was partly retelling the origin of Tarzan. You got Joe Kubert doing the art. So the art's really great. And, oh, there's those monster-sized monsters. I love those. So great art from Kubert. And a nice retelling of the story. They also have illustrated by Hal Foster from the old Sunday strips that they would do, which were like prose with art, basically. And they got John Carter of Mars, by the way, as the backup feature, which is really, really cool. So I like these. I want more of the DC ones. But what they did, you see on the cover, it says third DC issue. They retained the numbering. So it's number 209. They retained the numbering from, was it Gold Key? So whoever had it before DC, obviously, it might have been Gold Key. It might have been, no, it was Dell. I think it was Dell had the Tarzan books. And so they just kept the numbering, but they would let you know it was the third DC issue that they had going. Anywho, so we got Lord of the Rings, and then in 2027, speaking of, re-release of a restored Star Wars, February 19th, 2027 is the date they've slated. And this is the original, unbastardized cut of Star Wars. Han will fire first. We aren't going to have the goofy stuff with Han stepping on Jabba's tail. It's going to be the real deal. And I am looking forward to that. Because the last time I was like kind of getting tired of all the arguing over Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. And I understood where people were coming from, but it was just like, I think I've heard enough. I don't know. I think maybe I was just doing some work back here, and we got the videotapes from before all the stuff done to them. Threw on a videotape of Star Wars, watched it while I was working, and I'm just like, man, I still love this movie. I still love Star Wars, and I probably threw Empire on as well, if I had the time, but I love the original Star Wars movie. It was such a revelation to see it when I was 5 or 6 years old. Saw it at a drive-in theater when they re-released it in 78. I think it was originally 77. So I think 78 is when they re-released it. Suddenly you forget how popular it was that they kept it in theaters for a really long time. And just loved that movie. And watching it again, I'm like, yeah, it's a fun movie. It's just a fun movie. Of course, there are flaws here and there, as there are with anything, but it was solid. It was just a solid piece of work. So here we got I've been reading a bunch of the New Mutants. Most of them were already bagged and boarded. Which one was this? Oh, yeah, this is the one where the one New Mutant goes kind of bonkers and evil because she's possessed by somebody. Yeah, it was a weird storyline. I'd wanted to get a bunch of the New Mutants and read through them. And having done so, I'm like, I'm torn on that book. There's stuff I like and there's stuff that I just don't really go for. I think Claremont did better work, honestly, with the X-Men than he did on New Mutants. Some of it because, you know, they're supposed to be teenagers and they don't really seem like teenagers oftentimes. Look, Byrne and Claremont did awesome stuff, but they also had their limitations. For Byrne, like, every face is pretty much the same face, and he could not draw babies and little kids. There's some famously bad art of his of little kids and babies because he draws them with an adult face, because that's the Byrne face that he was capable of doing. But God, he does some other amazing stuff. You know, I'm not crapping on his art. He did some great stuff, and he wrote some great stuff. And Claremont writes great stuff, but all of the characters seem to speak in the same voice. They use the same sayings. There will be slight differences. Sometimes it's like the weird way that Warlock spoke. Boy, that would get on my nerves after a while. He would make those sort of cutesy weird ways Alien spoke that kind of struck me the same way as the super cute Frank Welker voiced character that would have to be put into all cartoons back in the day. So Uni was like that. They put one into the Flash Gordon cartoon. God, they put a cutesy gargoyle in the Conan cartoon. Because that was after my time, but I decided, well, maybe I'll watch it. It could be a good thing to review. And it was decent up until the end when the cutesy gargoyle showed up. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. In Conan? I'm like, yeah, we're done with this. I didn't watch past the first episode. But at any rate, the characters, I don't know. I'm not in love with how he wrote them. Now, New Warriors probably doesn't get as much love as a lot of that stuff. But I got to tell you something. I've really enjoyed the New Warriors. I had like a couple of those when I was first collecting comics back in the day. But I was sort of getting out of comics when New Warriors was really coming into, you know, its own. So I didn't get them. But I've been grabbing a few of those from that period, and Silver Sable from that period as well. And I've liked them. They're very much sort of traditional Marvel. They do some good, you know, some decent drama and character development, good action and stuff. I like Night Thrasher. I like Speedball. I like Firestar, and I think they did good stuff with her in the books. So I've been good. So I got to say, New Mutants versus New Warriors. I've kind of been coming down on the side of the New Warriors, having now read a bunch of New Mutants. I might try to finish that collection. I haven't decided yet. Because frankly, they're generally not super expensive. So, you know, I might try to fill in the gaps on all that stuff. But we'll see. We'll see where that one goes. But New Warriors, I'm definitely more into. So we got Star Wars coming out re-release wise February of 2027. So I'm looking forward to that. I would like to see the original cut without all the BS that Lucas threw into it. So I was so excited when they were re-releasing, and I remember going to it and being like, yeah, I don't really like this. It's just a lot of stuff that did not need to be there. It didn't look, the reality is, you know, some of what Lucas intended for Star Wars, maybe not as good as what we got, because there was, you know, collaboration there with his wife doing some editing, tightening things up here and there, stuff like that. Lucas is kind of like Roddenberry. There's definitely good ideas in there, but a lot of stuff that we love about Trek and Star Wars kind of came from other people, collaborators. And if you read some of the stuff like Roddenberry had intended with Star Trek, you're like, I don't know. Yeah, okay. But maybe not. You know, he was a good story editor, though, for sure. He did some great work on some of those early episodes. The one he wrote, Omega Glory, not one of the greatest episodes of all time, and there's some good stuff in it. But yeah, you know, Gene L. Coon put a lot of really great stuff into Star Trek. And that's often the case. You know, there's some great creativity there, and it couldn't exist without him. But like, you know, some of the stuff done by other people in Star Wars, like Empire Strikes Back, you know, in terms of directing and stuff, kind of a little bit better than the stuff Lucas did. Just my opinion. There's another New Warriors, Death in the Family. Hey, I think I've read a comic book with that name before from DC. Oh, the Conan cartoons. Well, maybe I need to go back to it and check it out, you know. Yeah, Byrne did a great run on Fantastic Four. I like his Superman stuff that he did too when he moved over to that. He did great stuff on X-Men. I liked his Alpha Flight, although story-wise, it didn't gel as much, and it didn't gel that well under Mantlo either. Alpha Flight to me is like so much potential, and the stories just don't quite meet up to that potential. It's weird. At the end, because I did the Alpha Flight Mondays in 2024, you know, when I got to the end of the year, I'm like going, I love these characters, and I didn't love most of the stories with these characters. Some I liked, some were good, some worked, some though didn't. Some of the stuff Mantlo was doing towards the end got really sloppy, like, you know, continuity wise, got kind of sloppy. I think that's because he was on his way out of comic books. He was getting a sort of like a law degree. It wasn't like to be a lawyer, but it was something in that world. And then of course he had an accident. He got on his bike, you know, and couldn't do anything after that. But yeah, I love some of that stuff, but there's also, I do recognize some limitations. Yeah, he did a pretty hot, you know, Sue Storm's pretty hot. The Kirby Sue Storm's pretty hot too, to be honest with you, you know, and Kirby wasn't maybe like the premier, girl artist, you know, good girl art kind of artist of his day, but he had his ways. I mean, Big Barda's she's pretty hot too in her way, but, yeah, no, I love the Byrne Fantastic Four. And the greatest thing about Byrne is, that he loved these characters, and it shows, you know, it shows in the work that he did. He was not somebody trying to invert them, change them, turn them into something that he found acceptable. He loved the old stuff and worked within it to produce new adventures with the characters that we knew and loved. He didn't go radically different on them. I mean, maybe the closest he ever did with that was She-Hulk, you know, but the She-Hulk book had not done mega well. And, you know, he kind of brings her back, it was either a Marvel 2-in-1 or it was an issue of Thing. And then he did the graphic novel and then Sensational She-Hulk. And, you know, he made She-Hulk a star. And part of that was because, you know, he drew a really hot She-Hulk, honestly. You know, you can't deny that. But he made her a very fun, very playful kind of character, and just a really cool character. And that's when I became a fan. I had bought some of the old She-Hulks because the back issues were like 25 cents a pop, and I didn't have a lot of pocket money. And so, like, you know, regular comics at that time were in the 75 cent to $1 range. So if I found back issues for 25 cents, it's like, dude, you get more for my money. I just wanted to read comics. I want to read everything. So I got Ms. Marvel, Spider-Woman, and She-Hulk comics from way back because they were cheap. But they were cheap because they didn't do super well as far as sales. So, you know, when Sensational She-Hulk came out, I was like, dude, and it was really fun, man. Yeah, focus on her being a lawyer. Oh, has he? Oh, I didn't realize that they went after him because he was kind of conservative. I didn't know that. But I'm sadly not surprised by it. Dude, they are releasing, I think in 2026, they're going to be releasing those X-Men stories that he just did on his own. Penciled wrote, I think it involves Savage Land, and he put them just like on his website or something. And they're good. It is old school X-Men. And they're going to be publishing those. It's a group that publishes Marvel stuff. It's not Marvel, but they get basically like the license to do Marvel stuff. And I'm looking forward to those. I'm looking forward. I think I'll get them. I think they're doing like 3 parts. It's going to be sort of like a graphic novel kind of format. And I want to say they're releasing them like maybe 3 months, 4 months apart. I can't remember now. It was on an old stream. I talked about it. But I'm like going, yeah, I'll probably get that because it's the classic kind of stuff that I really loved way back when. So there's Star Wars. That's something that I was going to talk about last week. I forgot to take out. So, first watches. Movie number 4, counting down from 5 to 1. The Day the Earth Blew Up. So this was put out in 2025. Now, it was actually made a little before that. It was shelved by Warner Brothers. And the folks who actually made it managed to get the rights to distribute it. So it came out in the theaters. It came out on DVD and stuff like that. It is the first movie that I watched in a theater in about 5 years. And I mostly did it a couple different reasons. One was I love the plucky underdog. I love the sort of indie getting stuff out there. And, granted, it's Warner Brothers and it's Looney Tunes licensing, but the folks who made it are kind of underdog. And 2, it was apparently traditional animation. It wasn't digital. I'm sure there's digital elements to it because that's just how they do stuff now. But it wasn't computer animation. It was the real stuff. Very inspired by Bob Clampett, Tex Avery, and those kind of folks. Didn't know what I was going to go get. My wife and I went and watched it. And I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a really fun job with it. It was funny. I laughed at parts of it for sure. I liked the animation. It was the older sort of early 40s, style Porky and Daffy. And it was a fun flick. They did a really nice job with it. I think it did decent in the theater. I mean, it didn't, break any records or anything like that, but I think it did decent for them in the theater. And if you love classic Looney Tunes, if you really love classic Looney Tunes, you might want to give it a look. I think they did the old stuff proper. Good respect to it. It wasn't like some major inversion of the characters or anything like that. Petunia's in it. I wouldn't call her a girl boss, although she does help those two quite a bit. But it's, you have to remember Daffy needs a lot of help because this is the Daffy who was freaking insane. This is not Chuck Jones's angry, bitter Daffy because Bugs is more popular. And it's not the hapless guy chasing around Speedy Gonzales. This is the original Daffy Duck, flying all over the place, acting like a complete maniac. And that's kind of part of the story is the fact that he was, screwing a lot of things up because he's so friggin' Daffy. And they all kind of bring it together at the end. There's kind of a fun little twist in it as well at the end of the thing. So I really enjoyed that one. It's definitely one of my favorite first watches. And like I said, the only first movie in like years that I went and watched in a theater. So this is my really crappy 50-cent bin Spectacular Spider-Man #1. They cut a hole out down here. You got 10 cents written on it. And what also is, maybe that's inside. Maybe that's just inside. The kid who owned it wrote his name in it too. Yeah. But I'm like, screw it, man. I want to read it, and it's 50 cents, so I'm doing it. I sometimes I look at these old comic books like homeless animals that need to be sheltered, like I've got to take that comic book in. I mean, it's a complete disaster, that thing. Somebody's going to throw it away if I don't give it a home. So I give some pretty ratty comic books a home sometimes. Remy says that one reminded him of the Bob Hope Bing Crosby movies. Yeah, there we go. You see the art. There's a little bit of the, there's a little Ren and Stimpy sensibility here and there, especially with Farmer. I don't know, it was Farmer Brown. I can't remember the farmer's name that raised them. But it didn't go too far in that direction, in my opinion. They did a nice job with it. There's a Power of the Atom Invaded. I don't know if I'm going to... That might be one I don't hold on to. I don't know if I'm going to collect all those or not. But there you go. That was movie number 4. So, oh, and crap. That was supposed to be... Oh, I know what I'm doing. Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I was going to show off a few new items that have shown up in the den. Starting with this. I got a Monster Squad t-shirt. Nacelle was doing a Black Friday sale. I looked at it. A lot of the stuff they're selling right now is not stuff I was into. It was a little bit after my time, when I was a kid. But I'm scrolling down, and here's this friggin' t-shirt with the 70s Monster Squad on it. Now, by the way, that is the 70s Monster Squad, not the movie they did in the 80s. This is the TV show, which I've done a review on this channel. It's kind of a spiritual successor to the old Adam West Batman TV show in a lot of ways, including one of the guys who was doing a lot of the writing. But it was like with delivery, it was like $15. So I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't need any more t-shirts, but I'm going to grab that. When am I going to have another chance to get those characters that cheaply? I'm in. So I got that. I showed the Fantastic Four 3D thing. Couple toy deliveries here. Pre-order type stuff that showed up. So here's the Aquaman from Super Friends. Aquaman was one of my favorite characters on Super Friends. They actually did a really nice job on the face sculpt. It does look like the character from the show. They kind of made the neck too thick on these characters. If you see the images of the Zan and Jaina, the Zan character, it's like his neck is just like huge. It almost looks like he's hunched over. They did kind of a weird job with that, but I think this one came out pretty good. I got my two favorite superhero characters from that series, Green Lantern, and I got Aquaman. And then I picked up that cheetah figure because they did just a really amazing job on it. And I got the Jaina. Yeah, Zan and Jaina. I was like, Jan and Zane. No, not Zaina. I got the Jaina figure with the Gleek, the space monkey. That was a tough one to pre-order, but it finally showed up on Amazon, and I was able to grab it really quick before it went away. Something weird went on there. McFarlane has had some troubles in that regard. This is one also. It's not new exactly, but it's another one that just popped up on Amazon. I had ordered this particular figure. I did like a back order, I think on Entertainment Earth, and I'd almost forgotten about it. And I finally kind of went and looked at it one day. I'm like, God, that's still there. I'm like, I don't think that's ever going to show up. And sure enough, I was like, I need to probably cancel it. And I want to say like a week or two later, Entertainment Earth canceled it. We're never going to have this figure in. And then, so I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's no big deal. And then lo and behold, Chris Starr shows up on friggin' Amazon. So I know you're getting a lot of reflection there, but, so I'm like, oh, wow. Well, I kind of wanted that dude because he's one of the, the oddballs like Rom that I dig. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah. And it was a normal price. It wasn't like some crazy price. So I'm like, why was it on back order forever at Entertainment Earth and never showed up? And then it just shows up mysteriously on Amazon. I don't know. I don't have any idea. And of course, that's not McFarlane, that's Hasbro. But I wanted it, so I grabbed it. So that showed up. This, I actually just ordered a week ago. But they put the Incredible Hulk series up at a really nice discount, about 50% off. So it's about $30. And I'd wanted to get this one for a while. So I went ahead and bid. I got some gift card money sitting on there. Yeah, it's a cool comic. I just got a couple of those too at a little comic convention they did here in town. Yeah, I wanted Chris Starr, and it was just one of those where I'm like, well, I'm never getting Chris Starr because on eBay, it's kind of expensive. So it's fine. It's no big deal. I don't, And then, hey, look, Chris Starr is on Amazon for like, $25 or whatever. I'm like, oh, why not? Don't ask me. And the other one that showed up, and this was like about a week or so ago, is the Inhumans with Medusa and Gorgon. So this one, Gorgon is going to a buddy of mine, Jarrett King. And I'm going to hold on to Medusa because I just thought it was a really amazing sculpt with the friggin' crazy hair. And I've discovered something, I think. So I really like that one. And I was looking recently at the one of the later Jean Greys that they've done. I'm like, that's really cool too. And I'm not like a major fan. I liked X Factor. It was like the X Factor costume. I liked X Factor, but it really appealed to me. And I think it just hit me. It's like, I think I like the way they do the red hair on these Marvel Legends figures. Because I just got, and it's Hasbro, it's not Marvel Legends, but I got the retro Scarlet recently as well. And I'm like, I'm finding like there's characters where I'm not that into them. I'm going, that's a really cool figure though. And I'm going, oh, the through line is they're all redheads, and it's not like in my, normal life, I have a fixation on redheads or anything, although I married somebody who was at the time a redhead. But I think it looks really good. The paint jobs they do on it, like it really pops. And I think that's what's like getting me. I did not buy the Jean Grey, by the way. It's like, I now understand the weakness that I apparently have. So they're not going to fool me, but I thought the Medusa one was really, really cool. So just a few things that popped up recently. By the way, this is actually one from a couple. Yeah, I know she is. Well, she's she was a redhead back in the day, and I married her, so it's okay. Believe me, I'm not looking for any additional redheads in my life. Although my daughter just recently went redhead because she's having some fun with little hair coloring and stuff too. So I guess I do have another redhead in my life at the moment. But yeah, this is the Sabrina facsimile that they did here recently. Sabrina #1. It was fun. There was actually, I talked about it in a former stream. There was some funny stuff in there with a guy who was like one of the warlocks who's a hippie who kind of gets hoist on his own petard for what he's doing. Oh, don't give me the eyes. Come on now. I didn't buy the Jean Grey figure. I didn't go that far. But I did recognize, I'm like, I think the redheads, I think they work really well on the Marvel Legends. It's a good paint scheme, it like I said, it pops, Okay, let's see if I can get myself out of trouble. So movie number 3 for first watches this year for me is Phantom of the Paradise. Heard stuff about this for a long time. I watch a lot of the videos done by Brian Heiler, Brick Mantooth, Plaid Stallions are the kind of channels stuff he uses. And he's a huge fan of Phantom of the Paradise, mega fan of Phantom of the Paradise. So listen to him talk about it a lot recently. It showed up on, I want to say Tubi. So I was like, okay, I'm going to finally watch this thing. And I got to say, man, it was really, really good. It's a weird flick, to say the least. It is a weird movie. But this I'm finding is it's having a bigger impact on me as I'm getting older, are the visuals and the cinematography and the design work and stuff that goes into it. I'm finding I can enjoy things based upon that design work, just the look of the film sometimes, even if the rest of it is just okay to me. I'm paying a lot more attention to that stuff lately. And it's a great looking film. It's odd. It's wonderful. It's weird. It's savage. It's got some like really hard hitting stuff in it. It's kind of based on the Faustus legend. But I really, 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 really enjoyed it. They cut a lot out of it though. On Tubi, they cut a lot out of it. I'm sure there's an extended cut to everything. OG Phantom of the Opera fan though. Yeah. Yeah. And there's definitely a Phantom of the Opera, aspect to it as well. No doubt about that, with the mask and all that. So it kind of plays with a couple different concepts, very much about the movie business, I would say, in the 70s, except that was how or music business, but that's how the music business has worked forever, just grinding people up and using them. But just some amazing visuals, the mask that dude wears and all the stuff that poor guy goes through. Really incredible stuff. Oh, it was cut up by the studio. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing the original vision for it, but it's still pretty good, even with whatever cuts were made. And of course you got Beef, Garrett Graham, who's just one of those guys who's just great and stuff, as a character actor. Another thing, it was kind of a first watch for me. I don't know if it was this year or last. I think it might have been last year. Was Used Cars, with Kurt Russell and Garrett Graham's in that one too. That was good. Used Cars was good. That was a solid, another kind of weird little flick. I enjoyed that one. Speaking of She-Hulk, almost got all the She-Hulks collected. Very close to completing that series. Very close indeed. I'll probably start doing some videos on those. Maybe not 2026, maybe 2027. I'm doing Thor on Mondays in 2026. And I don't want to try to commit to another weekly comic series because I'm already doing like 3 videos plus a live stream. And when I kind of figured out the prep time that goes into all of it and everything, I'm like going, good Lord, that's a lot of hours of time spent. Yeah. I hope I reach my 1 million subscribers here pretty soon. So all this will pay off. Oh yeah. Back to the kids. Yeah. Good stuff. So there you go. That was my number 3 of first watches. And I say number 3, but it could have probably gone higher, to be completely honest with you. I'm bad at trying to, number stuff from like 1 to 10 or whatever. Because I have a habit of calling everything I like the greatest thing that was ever made. Because in a weird way, it is. Like, I don't know. Am I picking, what's the best TV show ever made? I don't know, man. Like, there's so many TV shows I've liked. They're all the best TV show ever made. Boom, there's a little Silver Surfer with Nova. Did I just say Silver Surfer? I guess I did. I'm doing a JFK. The Silver Surfer is a credit to his name. And we hope he will continue to defend the Earth. Anyways. So, new releases campaigns. Dark Horse Manga is doing a deluxe edition of Shiro Masamune's Appleseed, coming out August of 2026. 848 pages for $70. I mean, you see $70, you're like, oh, $70, 848 pages. It's pretty darn good. Yeah, dude, Ron Lim, Silver Surfer, was badass. I had a few of those back in the day. Remember that cartoon? I didn't watch a ton of them, but I think they were kind of inspired by the work they did. That Silver Surfer cartoon from, I guess it was probably the early 90s. It's another one I want to watch and probably review one of these days and try to, but because I caught like a few episodes. It's sort of, I don't know, you get home from work or whatever, or college, and you happen to catch one. But I remember they did a cool thing with the computer animation in it. It's one of the first things that tried to overlay they tried to make the computer animated stuff look like the rest of the animation. Because you remember you had all those things back in the day where you had your traditional 2D animation with the traditional paint jobs. And then they would have a 3D animated object in the cartoon, but it was like, it didn't look like anything else. It was the shiny looking metallic kind of way they did early computer animation stuff. And it didn't mesh. And it kind of just looked stupid. And it looked more like a gimmick, like, hey, computer animation's neat. Let's just throw this in here. Silver Surfer tried to make that stuff look like the rest of the cartoon with the way they colored it. And I always kind of appreciated that. It was way out. Yeah, and again, I've only seen a few of those episodes. So that's one that I want to catch up on if I can find it. No, I haven't seen the Planet Hulk cartoon. No, wait a minute. Did I? I did. I did see that on streaming but years ago. Yeah, I did. The Planet Hulk thing's kind of interesting to me. It's like I didn't get as into it as some people have. Like with his son, Scar and stuff. Some of that reminded me what they were doing in the, God, was it late 70s, early 80s? With Jarella. Isn't that her name? Where Hulk is like shrunk down into the microcosm. And it's it's kind of a little sword and sorcery, John Carter from Mars-y kind of stuff. Jarella is like a princess with green skin. I think all the people there had green skin, which is why they accepted the Hulk right away, because he didn't look weird. Yeah, Planet Hulk. It seems like they first did it with that Jarella character, who I mostly remembered. I'd never read any of those, but I had the deluxe official handbook of the Marvel Universe. And the art on Jarella was pretty good. So it's like, oh, who's this character? Let me read about her. So I kind of caught up on it that way. God, I love those official handbooks. Those are so great. I just finally finished my collection on those. So I think Planet Hulk sort of like worked off of that basic concept. I think before that storyline really ended, Hulk is like, brought back into the normal universe and loses Jarella, and he's, takes it about as well as you would expect the Hulk to take his disappointments. But at any rate, but yeah, I do remember, I think I did watch that animated one. There were 2 or 3 animated Marvel series that I caught. One of them was the first time I ever saw Deadpool, and I instantly disliked him. And I know there's a lot of fans out there, but it's just the rapid fire jokiness just got on my nerves. It's like, here I can offend other people. It's like those Kinder characters in Dragonlance. Yeah, it's like, it's like hyperactive children. It's like, God bless hyperactive children, but I don't necessarily want to purposely hang out with them if I don't have to. Just kind of wears on especially because I'm an introvert. So like the bombardment, that kind of bombardment from a character is like more than I can handle. It's Justice League. America with the Fiat Lux, the dragon. I'm like going, who? That does not roll off the tongue. Just doesn't roll off the tongue. So wait, Dark Horse manga. McFarlane Oh no, okay. Yeah, okay. McFarlane Batcave playset based on the animated series, shipping in December. I think the figure is included, although I was like, but that's not the character from the animated series. That looks like the Michael Keaton Batman. So what are we? But it definitely said it was based on the animated series. Shipping in December, it's $225. I'm like, for that? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess it's just like it's cardboard, and I don't know, man. Yeah. So anyway, but that's shipping like in December. It's already up for sale. I don't know. I got to be honest with you. I'm not super impressed with that. As sort of place. I mean, let's be honest. It's not going to be used as a playset. It's for collectors who are not going to really be playing it. So it's really designed for display, displaying, Batman figures. And they have animated series figures that they do. And I'm like, but that's not one of them. That kind of looks like the Superpowers Batman in black. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with McFarlane. Don't know what's going on with McFarlane. Now, I know they're teasing some figures in the $35 range for spring of 2026, and I don't have any images, but they include Black Canary, which I would be interested in that. The 89 Joker, which looks a little like Jack Nicholson. So I don't know if they popped for the license on his face or not, but from the little image you see, it kind of does look like him. Captain Marvel Jr. and Vigilante, and it's the Cowboy Vigilante, the original Vigilante, which I'd also would be interested in. 54 unit polymer clay, yeah, 225. Like that does not look like $225 worth of playset, and it doesn't even look like you could display a lot of figures in it. So that one's weird. What about Bob? Wait, where did What About Bob come in? What did I say? Did I say something about, oh, okay. Bob see, my first thought was the movie, What About Bob with Bill Murray. I was trying to find but no, Bob from the Batman movie. Yeah. I don't know that they're going to put out a $35 Bob figure. I think the collecting, hysteria, that's probably not the right word. I don't think it's powerful enough right now to get people to pop $35 for Bob, unfortunately. Sorry, Bob. I liked Bob. I do admit I did like Bob. That dude was in a lot of stuff over the years. That character actor was in tons of stuff. I like him. All right, movie number 2 out of 5. Counting down. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Is Hell's Heroes. Ooh, this is a Korak, son of Tarzan. Also a tight fit. I think that'll work. Doesn't look too bad. Got a bunch of these, which was at one point Tarzan Family. I don't know if it became Tarzan Family after, or if it started out as that. Anyway, Hell's Heroes, 1929. It is not a silent film. It's a very early talkie, with some really good cinematography, because it's so much of it is shot outdoors, which was really difficult back then, for the sound equipment they had. And we were talking 1929, and they do a really nice job with the shots. There's a really cool shot where the bad guys have robbed a bank and shot a man in the process, and they're racing out of town on horseback, and they're being I'm trying to think if they're being chased by a wagon, but it's basically like it's a shot. It's a moving shot with with that all going on behind them. And you're going, wow, 29. Like they did a really nice job on that shot in 1929. It had to be difficult to do. The story, and it is sort of a Christmas movie. The story is basically Three Godfathers, which was remade with John Wayne. And I think it's been done maybe one or two times other than that, where these bad men, these robbers, come upon, they escape into the desert. They're looking for a watering hole. They find it and it's empty. Somebody blasted it because they were trying to get like more water or something with dynamite, and it's basically drained. So they're out in the desert. They got no water. The only town they could go back to is the one they just escaped from, where they're going to be hung. What are we going to do? And what do they find? But the people that had ruined the watering hole had gone looking for more water, leaving behind a wagon with a woman who was about to give birth. And there's some of the dialogue for 29 is pretty impressive here. But basically, these guys deliver the baby. The woman does not survive the delivery. And so these three guys have this baby. And how are they going to survive? And they basically decide, they decide we got to go back to town with this baby, regardless of what happens to us. One of them is not too impressed with that plan. The other two are like, nope, we got to do it. I think it's sort of like these bad guys. There could have been a Cagney movie. I'm not sure. I don't know if he did. Well, it wouldn't have been a Western, but it might have been off the same thing. But I think a couple of the guys are sort of like, I've lived a completely rotten life. I've done plenty of bad. I've done plenty of evil. I'm not going to let this baby die out here in the desert. Like, that was too far even for them. And maybe this is their one chance to sort of redeem themselves. And I think that, a couple of those guys kind of understand, like, we probably ain't going to make it anyways. This is the end. There's nowhere else to go. We're either going to sit out here in the desert and we're going to die of thirst, or we go back to this town and get hung. So whatever, the one guy still, I think, kind of wants to somehow escape. He thinks he can somehow get away, but it's really well filmed. It's impressive for 29. It's real baby, by the way, and a very small baby, which there would probably be rules that would make that a lot more difficult to shoot. But it's got it doesn't have a lot of twists in it. You can call a lot of the stuff that's going to happen. It doesn't necessarily surprise you, but it's pretty well acted, pretty well done. And the last scene is just like, wow. And the final scene does take place Christmas morning. So there's definitely, and obviously they're going for sort of like three wise men and a baby kind of a thing. It doesn't parallel, the story of the birth of Jesus per se, but there's a little element of that to it. And, but a really powerful finale to the movie. And I was just really impressed. It's one of those, another movie where I did not know what I was heading in for. Had no idea. Tokyo Godfather, that is another remake of it. Yeah. Did not know what I was heading in for with this movie at all. It was on, there's a channel on YouTube called Pizza Flicks, does a lot of public domain movies. And I'm like, what the heck, throw it on, check it out. And it was like, wow, really, really, really good. And it doesn't pull a punch at the end. The John Wayne version does. You get a happier ending in that one than you get in this one. It's still a happy ending, but it's not as happy. All right. Other coming attractions. Svengoolie trading cards. remember trading cards from our childhood. And obviously, trading cards kind of became a bigger thing in some ways in the 90s, but also it was a different thing. When we were kids, it was literally just like gumball, baseball cards. You got a little pack at the grocery store for whatever, a quarter, and you got what you got. It became a much more collector focused thing in the 90s where you're buying full boxes of the cards and all that kind of stuff. But I thought, it's fun. It's like, it's a little bit of a throwback. So if you are a fan of Svengoolie, you might want to go to the MeTV Mall and check that out. Here we have a Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi, the real Shang-Chi when he was based kind of off of Bruce Lee a little bit. The son of Fu Manchu. I know they kind of changed a little bit for the movie they did. Whew, that movie. Also, I'm bringing this up because of it's like a personal journey. The first Star Trek convention I ever went to was in the 80s here in Vegas. My dad took me. I remember Gates McFadden was at it, and Nichelle Nichols. Remember seeing those two. But I think it was when we were waiting for like one of those two to come out and do their bit in the little not showroom, but the auditorium. They were doing an auction. I was probably at the time, well, it had to be after Next Generation came out. So 16, 17, maybe 16 years old at the time. Some dude paid a crazy amount of money to me for a phaser replica. And even at that age, I remember being like, why would you pay? And it was probably in the $100 range. Like, but it's not a real phaser. Like, why would you pay that much money for a replica? Like, dude, that's crazy. That is insane. I guess I was never completely cut out for fandom. So this comes up. Monsters in Motion is the website, the shop. It's a replica tricorder for $60. And I was going, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, it's kind of, it takes batteries, not included, and it lights and does. And then I'm like going, oh crap. I've become the dude who paid a lot of money for a replica at a Star Trek convention now. Uh-oh. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But at any rate, yeah, but I did think it was cool. You can go to Monsters in Motion right now. They got the tricorder replica, for $60. They got, and these are pre-orders, shipping February 2026. There's also a communicator and a phaser for $40. So, hey, $40 for that phaser replica is a lot less than that dude paid back in like 89. So, if I got it, it would not be quite as bad as what that guy did all those years ago. But I'm not going to get it because I just have no place for them and I know no need for them. But they are really, really cool. They look really good. And I like that it is battery powered so that, so it does light up and do all the stuff. I suppose makes the noises. I don't know. I think it does. Super 7. Back to the Future O-Ring figures. They're up for sale now. They are, you got Marty McFly in 85, Marty McFly in 55, and you got Doc Brown in 85. So these are O-Ring, like the old G.I. Joe figures. $25 each. Or you can buy the set for $75. I'm like going, normally when you do that, you go 25 each or all three for like 70. So there's a tiny discount involved. No discount. So, but I guess you only have to click once if you do it that way. At any rate, I've got the Zartan figure they did O-Ring, and it's a pretty decent figure. They did a good job with it. So if you are a big fan of Back to the Future, they've done some of these previously, I think from the second movie. So this is, I guess, another wave, although it seems like it would be the first wave. since based on the characters, but it seems like maybe it's a second wave. But yeah, I know Super 7. I've done okay with Super 7. I think their Ultimates figures are where they've had some trouble, especially quality wise. I think maybe they bit off more than they can chew on that. And there are questions right now about are they long for this world? There may not be a Super 7 to kick around a whole lot longer. They're kind of getting crunched with the tariffs, but I think also with their pricing has never been great. I've always been sort of I'll get the Jet Jaguar figure because I love Jet Jaguar, and when am I going to get one of these otherwise? I picked up the Zartan, Cold Slither, because I thought, that's pretty unique. I'll grab that. But Super 7 wise, I got their D&D ones, and I've gotten the Micronauts. Those are probably the bigger purchases I've made. Other than that, it's just been a figure here and there. I've always thought if they could bring the prices down a little bit, it would have been great. Those Superman the Motion Picture figures that came out recently that you could buy like at Targets and stuff. God, why am I not? I'm blanking on the company that does them. They're like $10 a pop, and frankly, they're basically the same thing as what Super 7 is doing with their 3 3/4 inch figures. They can do them at $10 a pop. You can't do them like $15 a pop. $15 for some of those figures, and I would have bought more of them. Because I'll tell you, the first time I ever looked at the Super 7 site, when I found out about it, it was like, oh, wow, that's cool. That's neat. That's cool. But then I'm kind of looking going, well, I don't want to pay that much for a Star Wars figure. And, so I probably immediately picked out about 20 figures I would have liked. And I bought, I think, 0 of them. I kept my eyes open, and there's some things I picked up later on. But, I think pricing's been an issue too. And Ramy says, everything sells out too quick. I haven't had trouble with that, but it's probably true. But also, like when they've dropped stuff like the Micronauts that I wanted, I kind of got in there pretty quickly and grabbed one. But I am seeing a lot of deep discounts on some of the Super 7 stuff. So some of it, their problem is not that it's selling out too quick, but that it ain't selling out at all. I think they got a little ahead of themselves. I think Mego did as well, because there's a lot of deep discount Mego stuff out there as well at this point. And Arak, the Ferryman of Hell. I like Arak. Oh, Ernie Colon. Or do we say Cologne? Ernie Cologne? I don't know how you pronounce it. One of those very awesome artists from back in the day at DC. So there we go, though. But they got some Back to the Future stuff. And McFarlane has a couple things announced here. Pre-orders coming up on December 17th. So 3 days from now. You get the Flash. And this is actually just a standard Flash from the JLA. And I'm like, smarter people than me could tell you if it was Barry or Wally. I don't know, but they're similar enough in their costumes. But it's basically a proper Flash figure. And they also have a version of Rocket Red that I'm just completely unaware of. If it was the blocky looking dude from the 80s, those initial, I would be more tempted to, because that armor was so wrong. It just so wrong. It feels so right. And then also from JLA for Justice League International, we got Ice. Now they've done a Fire figure who was like in her flame form. So it was like a translucent green figure. So now you have Ice to go with that one if you want it. Kind of wish they do want a Fire just in normal human form. I probably would buy that quicker than I would buy the translucent flamey one. But pretty cool. I'm not really collecting Justice League International in that particular size range. I was grabbing some of those figures for the Superpowers size range, but looks pretty good. Let's see, do I have a price on those? No price on them. I'm guessing 28 to 35 in that range. Probably $28. But 3 days from now, you'll find out for sure. And final coming attraction. And I got to be honest with you, I'm real tempted on this one. This is Jada Toys. They're cereal mascot figures. Fred and Barney. Fred coming with Fruity Pebbles. Barney with the Cocoa Pebbles. You get the little bowl of cereal. You get the little cereal box. Plus the character. They have done a Tony the Tiger that looks really, really, really good. And I'm like, I just don't need a Tony the Tiger figure. I couldn't justify it. But Fred and Barney, because it's also just a really nice Fred and Barney figure. And by the way, that pose they have him in there, why does that remind me of Rankin Bass? Now I'm thinking somebody needs to do a stop motion Rankin Bass style movie or TV show with Fred and Barney. But so I think that just really great sculpts on those two characters. Really kind of fun. It's probably going to be too much money. I'm probably not going to end up buying them. Oh, Dino would be nice too, but Dino's not so much in the cereal commercials, a little bit, but you know, these are technically Fred and Barney from the cereal commercials is what they're going for, because that's the line they're doing. God, you stack these comics up high enough in these bags and you're just like begging for an avalanche. And I have strategically placed a glass of soda in the firing line there. Probably not my best move ever. But at any rate, that's, let's see. Pre-order December 15th. So tomorrow is up for pre-order on Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. So I'll take a look. But again, I probably can't justify getting those. I mean, we did finally get the monster cereal ones though. So we do, we do have a couple of those. We got those to put them out like at Halloween time as a little decoration. All right. Let's sort of wrap this up with my first watch of 2025. I've talked about this movie a little bit because it was another one that sort of took me by surprise. I think that's one of the things I like the most. Fantomas. French movie, so yeah, it's in French. It is subtitled in English. You gotta read the movie. I don't know that there's a dub that's ever been made. Sadly. But not entirely sadly, because the performances, it is a funny movie. It's an action comedy. And the performances of the one detective who's chasing Fantomas around, it's pretty damn funny. And I think it would lose something if somebody dubbed the voice. I really do. So I'm willing to read it. I'll put it that way. I actually didn't watch, there's a trilogy, and I didn't watch the first movie first. It was on Tubi, Fantomas versus Scotland Yard. And I'm like, what the heck? Let me throw that on. I kind of heard of Fantomas before. Threw that on, and I really enjoyed it. It was very funny. Found out that was the third movie in the trilogy. So then I went and watched the first one. And I watched the second one, and then I bought them on DVD because I was so happy with them. They're funny movies. There's actually really good action in them. I love the design of Fantomas. That is a mask that he wears. He is a master of disguise, a thoroughly evil character. So he's kind of the protagonist, but not really. But good performances all around. Demangeau is really good in it. She's cute and but funny, and everybody's good in the movies. Like I said, you got the sequel was Fantomas Unleashed, where that detective has a pirate disguise with a machine gun peg leg, which was rather fun in the movie. And then Fantômas versus Scotland Yard, which was probably the most comical of the movies and really put that detective more front and center. I probably should call him an inspector because he's with the Sûreté. And that's kind of how they do it over there in France. Really, it's really his movie, that one. He's more of the main character in a lot of ways than Fantômas is. But good flicks, solid little action comedies. To me, they're just kind of good, sort of comfort viewing. Like, I got nothing else to do. Let me throw on one of these movies. Once you've seen it, you kind of know what's going on, so you probably don't have to read every line because you kind of know. But great visuals in them, good stunts, good stunt work in especially in the first couple films. The set designs are really, really, really cool. It's France in the early 60s. I want to say 64 was the first one was 64, second one was 65, third one was 66. Could have had an impact on the old Batman show because there's a little camp to them. They don't go over the top with the campiness, but it's in that general vicinity. But there you go. My favorite first watch, I think, for 2025 was Fantômas, and that'll do it for Live in the Den on this Sunday morning. Hope everybody out there enjoyed it, who watched it. Ramey and Lady Wendelin in my chat, thank you very much, guys, for being in there. Coming up this week for Dad's Den on Monday, Justice League America number 50 and Justice League Europe number 26 for Justice League Monday. That's right, only a few more weeks of that. I've actually already recorded those videos, so I'm officially done recording Justice League Mondays. I've got to start in on Thor Mondays for January, coming up quicker than it seems, a lot quicker than it seems. On Wednesday, I'm doing a review of the 1980 Shazam cartoon from Filmation. Cool little cartoon, not a lot of episodes to it, but if you're a fan of Captain Marvel, you might dig it. And it is traditional Captain Marvel, not the sort of, versions they've done nowadays. And then on Friday, I'm going to be doing a sort of read-through retrospective review of 1982 TSR sci-fi role-playing game Star Frontiers. So opening up the box set, going through the rules and talking about how they did things in it. I think it's a good little game system that probably didn't get enough attention, really. But it had some stiff competition out there from things like Traveler and the fastest Star Trek, game and a few others. But Star Frontiers was pretty solid, so we're going to look at that on Friday in the Den, and then the week after, we're going to have a couple more Christmassy videos. My God, we're almost there, man. We're almost to Christmas. Said first day of Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah to everybody out there who's celebrating, and condolences to the folks in Australia, folks who, lost loved ones at Brown University. It's a terrible, terrible thing, and I hope authorities get a handle on it real soon because it needs to stop. But do a video on peace on Earth. Oh, buddy. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Get a little more peace on Earth would be nice right about now. But I will end with God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little fun out there. Get into the holiday spirit, folks. Even folks who aren't real religious, at least get into the spirit of love and peace and being groovy to one another. And I will hopefully see you again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.